What if the person who broke your heart, who stabbed you in the back, who looked you in the eye and chose to leave, what if they didn't destroy your story, but accidentally wrote the best chapter of it? Right now, someone watching this is carrying a wound. Maybe it's fresh, maybe it's years old and you think you're over it until 2 a.m. when you're not. You've imagined the revenge, you've rehearsed the confrontation, you've checked their page, you've wondered if they ever regret it. Here's the truth. Nobody says out loud. Every second you spend waiting for their downfall is a second you hand them your future on a silver plate. The best revenge is not their suffering. It is your becoming. It is the version of you that grows so completely, so powerfully, so undeniably that one day you realize you forgot to be angry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because you became too alive to stay in the wound. Stay with me through this entire speech, because by the end, you won't just feel better. You will think differently about pain, about healing, about power, and about exactly who you are becoming right now, in the middle of everything that tried to stop you. What if the people who hurt you actually gave you the most important information of your life? We are conditioned, deeply, culturally conditioned, to treat emotional pain as something to escape, numb, or avenge. But here is the uncomfortable truth that nobody puts on a motivational poster. Pain is one of the most precise diagnostic tools the human soul possesses. When someone betrays you, abandons you, or humiliates you, your nervous system doesn't just register hurt, it registers data. It reveals your values, your boundaries, your unspoken needs. It shows you exactly where you were not protected, not honest with yourself, or not honoring your own worth. The people who chose to run from their pain through distraction, revenge fantasies, or bitterness stayed exactly where they were. The people who sat with it, examined it, asked, "What is this trying to teach me?" They transformed. Pain is not your punishment. It is your curriculum. And the moment you stop trying to escape it and start trying to understand it, you stop being a victim of your story and you start becoming the author of it. That shift from victim to author is where healing actually begins. What if every second you spent planning revenge was actually a second you handed your future back to the person who already stole from your past? This is the brutal irony that nobody talks about. Revenge feels like power. It feels like strength. It feels like justice. But neurologically, emotionally, and spiritually, revenge is a leash. Every time you imagine their downfall, every time you check their social media hoping they're miserable, every time you rehearse what you should have said, you are giving that person rent-free real estate in the most valuable property you own, your mind. The energy you pour into wanting them to suffer is energy that is not going into building your own life. Bitterness is not armor. Bitterness is a cage. And the cruelest part is that you are the one who locks it from the inside. The only person being punished by your obsession with their punishment is you. True power is not destroying someone else's garden. True power is watering your own until it becomes so abundant, so alive, so undeniably beautiful that you genuinely forget to look over the fence. That is not weakness. That is the most sophisticated form of strength a human being can develop. What if the days you fall apart are not setbacks, but the most honest, most courageous moments of your entire healing journey? We have been sold a false narrative about healing. We think it looks like a straight line: hurt, then cry, then forgive, then move on, clean, organized, finished. But real healing is messy. It is non-linear, unpredictable, and deeply uncomfortable. You will have days where you feel completely free, and then a song plays, or a smell hits you, or you drive past a street and suddenly you're back in the wound like no time has passed at all. And the worst thing you can do in that moment is tell yourself you're broken. You are not broken. You are human. Grief does not follow a schedule. Growth does not follow a schedule. Some days healing looks like therapy and journaling and meaningful conversations. Other days it looks like crying in a parking lot and eating cereal for dinner. Both are valid. Both are part of the process. The people who heal the most powerfully are not the ones who never fall apart. They are the ones who fall apart, sit in the rubble without shame, and then slowly, imperfectly, start to rebuild. That courage to keep going without a clean timeline, that is where true resilience is born. What if the very thing you were told made you weak, your sensitivity, your openness, your capacity to feel deeply, is actually the source of your greatest power? After we are hurt, the instinct is to close, to armor up, to decide, I will never let anyone in again. And it makes sense. It is survival logic. But here is what that armor actually costs you. It does not just keep out the people who might hurt you. It keeps out everything: joy, connection, love, belonging, creativity. You cannot selectively numb emotion. When you shut the door on pain, you shut the door on aliveness. The most powerful people, not the loudest, not the most dominant, but the most genuinely powerful, are the ones who have been broken open and chose to stay open anyway. Not naive, not reckless, but willing to try again, willing to trust again, willing to love again, knowing it might hurt again. That willingness is not weakness. That willingness is extraordinary courage. Vulnerability is not a character flaw you need to fix. It is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. It is where your most authentic, most magnetic, most powerful self lives. The world does not need more closed hearts. It needs more people brave enough to stay open after being broken. What if you did not need to say a single word to the person who hurt you because your life said everything? This is the keynote that changes everything. We spend so much energy trying to prove something to the people who wronged us. We want them to see what they lost. We want them to acknowledge what they did. We want justice announced, witnessed, validated. But here is the truth. The most powerful response to someone who diminished you is to expand. Not for them, for you. When you pour that energy into your own growth, your career, your health, your relationships, your creativity, your character, you become someone unrecognizable from the person they hurt. And that transformation is not just satisfying, it is freeing. Because at some point you realize you are no longer growing to show them anything. You are growing because you have discovered what you are actually capable of. You have discovered that the pain they caused you was the very thing that cracked you open enough to find your own depth. Your evolution becomes its own reward. And the best part, you don't need them to witness it. You don't need them to regret it. Your growth has already become larger than their opinion of you ever was. What if forgiving the person who hurt you was the most selfish, in the best possible sense, act you could ever commit? Forgiveness is the most misunderstood concept in human psychology. People hear the word and immediately flinch because they think forgiveness means what was done to them was okay. It was not okay. It does not mean the person deserves your grace. It does not mean you invite them back into your life. It does not mean you minimize the damage or pretend the wound never existed. Forgiveness means this: I refuse to let what you did to me in the past determine what I experience in my future. It means you are choosing consciously, deliberately, and powerfully to put down the heavy stone of resentment that you have been carrying, not them. Research in psychology is unequivocal. Carrying unforgiveness has measurable physical consequences: elevated cortisol, compromised immune function, disrupted sleep, diminished capacity for joy. Bitterness is physiologically expensive. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is physiologically liberating. When you forgive, you are not releasing them from accountability. You are releasing yourself from the prison of the past. You are stepping out of the story where they are the main character and stepping into the story where you are. What if the person who hurt you most, the one who betrayed you, who abandoned you, who looked you in the eye and chose to walk away, what if they accidentally gave you the greatest gift of your entire life? I know, that sounds impossible, maybe even insulting, because right now, if you are sitting with that wound still fresh, or even if it has been years and it still catches you off guard, the last thing you want to hear is that someone's cruelty was somehow a gift. But stay with me. Because what I am about to share with you is not a comfort. It is not a platitude. It is not something you put on a coffee mug and forget. What I am about to share with you is something that, if you are willing to sit with it, if you are willing to let it land, will change the way you understand not just what happened to you, but who you are because of it. We live in a world that has a very particular relationship with pain. We are taught from the time we are small that pain is the enemy, that it signals something wrong, that the goal, the only goal, is to get out of it as fast as possible. And so we run, we numb, we distract, we plot our revenge in the dark at 2 in the morning, playing out scenarios where they finally understand what they did, where they finally suffer the way we suffered, where justice arrives loud and visible and completely satisfying. But here is what nobody tells you about that fantasy. It keeps you tethered. Every single time you replay it, every time you check their social media, every time you rehearse the perfect response you should have said, every time you imagine their downfall, you are handing your present moment back to someone who has already taken enough from your past. Pain is data. That is the first thing I need you to understand. Not punishment, not proof that you were wrong to trust, not evidence that love is a trap. Data. When someone betrays you, your nervous system is not just registering hurt, it is registering information about your values, about your boundaries, about the places where you are not protecting yourself, not honoring yourself, not being fully honest with yourself about what you needed. The people who run from that information stay exactly where they were. The people who turn toward it, who sit in the discomfort and ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" they transform. And transformation, not revenge, is where the real power lives. Now, I want to tell you something about revenge that might be the most counterintuitive thing you have ever heard. Revenge feels like strength. I know it does. It feels like reclaiming something. It feels like justice. But revenge is a leash. It is a beautiful looking leash, decorated with the language of empowerment, with the rhetoric of standing up for yourself. But underneath all of that, it is still a leash, because it means the other person is still directing your energy, still determining where your attention goes, still the main character in the story of your life, and you deserve to be the main character in your own story. The most devastating thing you can do to someone who underestimated you, and I mean this with everything I have, is to become someone unrecognizable. Not for them, never for them, for you. Pour that energy, every single drop of it that you use to spend on bitterness, on plotting, on imagining their regret. Pour it into your own growth, your craft, your health, your relationships, your character, your capacity for joy. Expand. Become more, not louder, not more visible to them, not performing for their eventual discovery, genuinely, privately, powerfully more. And at some point, something extraordinary will happen. You will realize you forgot to check if they were watching because you became too interested in your own life to care about theirs. But I also need to tell you something true about healing, because we have been sold a lie about what it looks like. Healing is not linear. It is not a clean arc with a satisfying resolution. It is messy and non-linear and wildly inconsistent. There will be days when you feel completely free, and then something small, a song, a smell, a specific quality of afternoon light will send you straight back into the wound like no time has passed at all. And the cruelest thing you can do to yourself in that moment is decide that this means you have failed. You have not failed. You are human. And the people who heal most powerfully are not the ones who never fall apart. They are the ones who fall apart, sit in it without shame, and then slowly, imperfectly, unglamorously begin again. Here's what else I need to say, and I need you to really hear this. The thing that you were told made you weak. Your sensitivity, your openness, your capacity to feel things deeply, that is not a flaw. That is a superpower you have been trained to apologize for. After we are hurt, the instinct is to armor up, to close, to decide we will never be that vulnerable again. And I understand that instinct completely. But that armor, as understandable as it is, does not just keep out the people who might hurt you, it keeps out everything: joy, connection, love, the full experience of being alive. You cannot selectively numb. When you shut the door on pain, you shut the door on aliveness. And staying open, not naive, not reckless, but genuinely willing to try again, to trust again, to love again, knowing full well it might cost you again, that is not weakness. That is the rarest and most extraordinary form of courage that exists. And then there is forgiveness, the most misunderstood word in the human vocabulary. Forgiveness does not mean what was done to you was acceptable. It was not. Forgiveness does not mean you invite the person back. Forgiveness does not require their acknowledgement, their apology, or their awareness. Forgiveness means one thing: I refuse to let what you did to me in the past determine what I experience in my future. It means you are putting down a stone you have been carrying, one that was never yours to carry in the first place. Because that stone, the resentment, the bitterness, the exhausting vigilance of staying angry, it is not hurting them. It is costing you your sleep, your joy, your capacity to be present in your own life. Forgiveness is not a gift you give someone who wronged you. It is a gift you give yourself. It is the moment you step out of their story and back into your own. So here is the answer to the question you may have been asking since the wound was fresh. What is the best revenge? It is not their suffering. It is not their public humiliation. It is not them finally understanding what they lost. The best revenge, the only revenge that actually sets you free, is a life so genuinely, so deeply, so unmistakably yours that you no longer need them to witness it. A life built not from bitterness, but from growth. Not from the desire to prove something, but from the discovery of who you actually are when you stop letting what happened to you define what is possible for you. That is not a small thing. That is everything. The people who hurt us are, in the cruelest and most unexpected way, sometimes the architects of our greatest becoming. Not because what they did was right, not because the pain was deserved, but because pain, when we are willing to face it instead of flee from it, has an extraordinary capacity to crack us open in exactly the right places, to reveal strength we did not know existed, to strip away everything that was not truly ours, so that what remains is undeniably, unshakably real. The best revenge is not something you do to someone. It is something you become despite them. It is the quiet, powerful, daily decision to grow, to heal, to open, to forgive, and to live with such fullness and such authenticity that your life itself becomes the most complete response you could ever give. Not a retaliation, a transformation. And that is yours, entirely, permanently, beautifully yours.